What is up, everybody? Alex from WMD here, back at you again, and this time we're going to be talking about attenuation, and we're just going to make a drone and just experience the sound, right? So what I've got going on here is I have my Synchrodyne Expand, and then I have the new WMD Attend, or 410, however you want to call it, and I just wanted to do an attenuation demo because I thought that it would be useful for people to see attenuation in a Eurorack synthesizer setup and just kind of understand why you might want to use attenuation, why we made this module. Also, this module has 5 volts routed to the input, which means you can use it just as a 5 volt offset using the fader as attenuation for that 5 volt signal. So you can basically replace any CV knob that you need to or anything like that. So it's a really nice module, 4 HP, and the faders just make it really fun to play. All right, so I already have this all patched up. We're not going to go from scratch. I just thought it'd be easy to explain how this one works. And like I said earlier, this is a drone demo. This doesn't have a bunch of drums. It doesn't have a bunch of other stuff. It's literally an oscillator running through a delay, and that's what we're going to be hearing. So right now, what I'm doing is I've just got my Synchrodyne Expand. Those are running through the magneto. The 4-pole output is going into the magneto, and we'll listen to a couple other things. I've got the Synchrodyne Expands oscillator synced to the saw wave out of the Synchrodyne, and I'll show you why that is in a minute. And then we have the pulse wave out going through an aperture filter, and this is to kind of keep the sub. So I've kind of got the aperture set up to be a low pass filter, and this is just to emphasize the low end, so when we have our drone going, we really hear that low end. So how the Synchrodyne works is it's an oscillator that controls a PLL circuit. The PLL basically just tries to track the oscillator, but you can multiply the frequency up to a really high speed. The filter of the Synchrodyne needs a high-speed clock, and that's how you actually control the cutoff. So you control the cutoff frequency of the filter with a high-speed clock. And so Synchrodyne is really cool because it takes the original oscillator and normals it through the filter, so you do have a sound source that you can use, but then it uses that PLL to multiply that oscillator frequency to a point where the filter can use it. So it's like pseudo key tracking at that point. Then we have the Synchrodyne Expand. The Synchrodyne Expand has the ability to clock the filter as well, or you can use PLL number 1 to clock the filter, or you can use both the Synchrodyne Expands oscillator and the Synchrodyne 1's PLL circuit. And when you use those two together, they kind of fight each other and make a really cool sound. And so when you change the oscillator frequency on the Synchrodyne Expand, you get a whole new filter sound. And yeah, so before I just confuse you a bunch, let's just turn up the audio and see what I mean here. So I'm going to turn off the delay. And right now, what you're hearing is the Synchrodyne. And then I have an LFO coming out of Modbox, and that's running into the volt per octave of the Synchrodyne Expand. So if I take out both the sync and the saw wave, or the pulse wave here, and just take out everything, this is our sound. And we can change the filter sounds up here, right? And we can change the filter sound with this chorus knob. So I love the way that sounds, so I took the Modbox, ran it into the volt per octave here. And then just to make things a little bit more hard sync sound, I took that saw wave, ran it into the sync input on Synchrodyne Expand. And then the pulse wave is going out of Synchrodyne through the aperture, and that's this sound right here. All right, so that's the essential voice. The 4-pole output is going through the magneto, so I can turn up my wet here, and we can get a little bit of delay repeats on there. So that just makes it sound more ominous, has, you know, more of like a chorus or ensemble effect on top of what we've got going on. So now let's talk about the Attend module. So what I've got going on here is I have the output of channel 1 with no input. So that's just a 5-volt offset that's running into the influence input on the Synchrodyne. This influences the filter. So I have direct control with this fader over the influence of that the PLL is going to have on the filter. So if I turn it all the way down, we can get close to turning, we can just turn it off. I can turn off the magneto here and you can literally hear what the Synchrodyne is doing now. So I'm going to bring up that filter again. All right, so the next channel, same thing, offset. This is going into the VCA amount. So this is the oscillator going, the VCA that's going before the filter. Oh, that sounds so dope. So I'm gonna turn this down. And now we're literally just hearing the resonance of the filter. We're no longer hearing the oscillator. We're barely hearing the oscillator, I guess. So I can bring that in there. So check this out. If we switch to the wave-folded output, the more that I bring up that VCA, the more wave-folded sound we get. And then messing with this filter influence, we just get some really cool sounds in between here. Turn off the input wave folder. You can hear just the influence it has on the output wave folder again. So lots and lots of tonal variety just by changing these two faders right here. All right, so the next one, I have I have that slow LFO, and that's running straight into the volt per octave on the Synchrodyne and Expand, which is giving us that kind of overtone rise and fall sound. So with this second LFO out of Modbox, what I'm doing is I'm taking the 240 phase out, and I'm running that through the 410 or the Attend, and I'm running that into the speed of magneto. So if we turn up the wet here, give ourselves a signal. I basically, with this fader, can turn on modulation to the speed or not. So this is no modulation, right? And then I can turn up that modulation with this fader here. And that's right now, it's kind of rumbling in the background. You'll hear it speed up. It's going faster and faster. And kind of creating its own texture back there. All right, and so the last thing, I already mentioned this, but so that's kind of like the high end, right? And with this resonance up on the Synchrodyne filter, it sounds really nice in the high end. You can tell that there's a low frequency drone going, but it's not super subby. So what I've done to fix that is I've taken the square wave out, ran that through the aperture, and just kind of isolated sub frequencies here. Right? So now when I listen to both of those together, we've got that sub going as well as all that high frequency stuff. And now just for fun, I took the sample and hold output of Modbox and I ran that through my last channel on the Attend, and that's going into the frequency input on aperture. So now I can just turn that up with a fader. We've just got a little bit more of that like robotic kind of sample and hold sound in the back. So now I'm just gonna have a play with it and jam out a little bit on this drone. All right, so that's it. 410 is available now. Check it out, wmdevices.com. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Peace.